In this video, we're going to look at a process pathway and how to add detailed information in tasks. We're going to look at the new family office onboarding process, which is an October pathway. Here you can see that there are a whole series of stages. We want some information about the venture, company information, business evaluation, and so on. If we go into the venture stage, we can see that there are a couple of steps in the process. The first one is reviewing an application form. Now maybe we want to look at that task to see what has been requested in it. When we go into it, it says that we want to look at the application form or notes from the initial meeting. And if we go into the next stage, we will see that we've actually attached a venture application form, which is a document in the data room, so that this can be completed on behalf of the person who's completing the task. We're happy with that, so we save it. Now we're going to go into the transaction to see what that new application form is. If we go into form, we can now see that the application is actually a task form we've created. It's asked for the venture name, the problem that they're trying to solve, the location they're in, and there's a whole series of other drop-down information that we might be asking for them. And so this gives you an opportunity to collect all of this information on behalf of the venture. You may or may not have it all now, but you can always add more information to it later. You can also see who has permission to work on the document. You can see some have edit only and some have published. And you can see an audit trail of who's managed those tasks. If we go back to the stage, we may decide we want to add a new task. And that new task might be to complete an NDA. So in this particular case, it's gather the information required and have client sign NDA. So there's a couple of steps that they need to do to be able to complete this. They need to gather the information, and then they need to complete the NDA. Here we can ask them to attach a draft NDA that they've completed themselves, or we can attach a file or form from the data room. In this particular case, we go into the data room and we scroll through and we can see that there is actually a one NDA form to complete. And so we select that and we save. That means that the person who's assigned this task knows that they have to get the information required so that they can complete the NDA. They have a place to put any comments if they're having trouble getting the information, but they can also see the document that needs to be uploaded. Here the document loads up, and if the data had been supplied in a task form, it could be dragged into the document, or it can be completed right here on a fillable PDF document. Once you've completed it, you can then save it. You can see the permissions for the document, and you can see an audit trail of who's worked on it. And you've also got the ability to view the permission, a number of stages that are available here. So we're going to go into the business evaluation stage and look at some more of the tasks to see the information that's available. In the first indication, we've got a task which is review the business plan provided. And if we go into the task, we can see review and provide comments on the business plan submitted and uploaded to the data room. So this gives the person who's completing the task the opportunity to upload a document and put it in the data room, or to select something that is in the data room itself. We might also be in a position where we're asking somebody external to provide a document. And in this case, we're asking the person who's been given the task to gather that document and include it by uploading it into the platform. It will then become available in the data room. If we go to the data room, we can see that there are a reasonable number of documents already in the data room, and we can add these to tasks, and we can add further documents as we require them going through the process of onboarding. We may find that when we add some additional information, we need to gather some more documents and include them in the data room. So if we go into the initial assessment, we can see that there was an initial interview with a client, and that initial interview had a form so that we could gather the information about the client, get some just. If we create a new task that involves forms, we can request that we create a new form. And in this particular case, we're going to explore all of the opportunities for the new form. So we're going to create a new form submission. And in this particular case, we're going to look at the various types of information and data fields that we can produce for the form. So the first data form we're going to do is test data 1, and we're going to select a radio button. And that radio button will be able to be toggled across just like this one is. And then we hit save. The second piece of information we're going to do, test data 2, we're going to select an email address and save. That will ensure that if you provide the information as an email address, it confirms that it is a valid email address format before it allows you to save the task. The next task that we're doing is to look at a drop-down menu. And we go into the drop-down menu, and it gives us the different options. So the first one is seed stage, and the second one is pre-seed. And then we're going to add a third one, which is Series A. And we're going to save those, make them a mandatory, and save them. And that will give us the drop-down field. The next kind of data we might want to add is a number or a checkbox. And here we can provide option 1 is yes, and option 2 is no. And we'll save that. We'll make this a mandatory field, and we'll save it. So you can see that there's a number of different options for data types. And we have some test confirmation in the back to make sure that the correct type of data is entered when you put the information in. So if you ask for a number, it will give you a number. If you ask for an email, it will confirm that it is an appropriate email. And if you ask for a date, it will also confirm a valid date. Perhaps here we want to ask for a date, and it will give you a box to put in the date. If at any time you decide you don't want something, here we may decide, actually, we don't need the email address. We can simply select that and delete it, and therefore you can see it's disappeared. We may decide that we need to renumber this one. We can enter into it and save again, and that will have updated the form. And we can now create the form. If we go into that task and we look at the form, we can now see the form completed and what each of the various task information look like. The first one asks for test data is a radio button, so we click it. The next one asks us to select from a drop-down menu. So perhaps we're going to do pre-seed. The next one gives us an opportunity to select either a yes or no multiple choice. The last one asks for some test data, which is a number. And then the final one asks us to select a date, and it pops up a date. So you see you have a fair bit of flexibility when you're setting up tasks. If you've set them up and you want to change them, you can go in and change them at any time afterwards before they're completed. Once you assign them to a team member, they will have to complete them as they are set up, or you will have to contact them to let them know that you're going to make the changes before they can complete them.